Welcome back to another Walk and Talk. First on the Walk and Talk series, we've got someone external who's not really external, but we'll get into that a little bit more. Would you like to introduce yourself and explain where you're walking today?
I'm Emma, so external but not quite external. Tried to be external a few times, but it just never really worked. And I'm just walking around my home village, so hoping the signal doesn't drop out in the countryside.
Lovely. Well, yeah, like we said, external but not external. I think that needs a little bit of explaining. Where does this story start then? So obviously we're here today, we're having this conversation and we've met a few times, but how did we get to this? How did we get to this conversation today? What's your journey been?
So I was a student at Cov way back in the day, embarrassingly far back in the day. I can't even
I'm not going to ask.
Year. No, you don't. So yeah, I did sport and exercise science for my undergrad, and then I did my first master's there as well, which was in psychology.
Okay.
Obviously really didn't want to leave, so also then got a job in the FU as books admin. Then still didn't want to leave, so got a job again as societies coordinator, and then they still couldn't get rid of me, so I became sport participation coordinator as well. So yeah, been there a long time, and yeah, played hockey for my entire career there too.
Fantastic. How was it all sort of back to back? How long were you there total? Do you know off the top of your head?
A long time. So I think I started my undergrad in 2012. So finished that in 2015. Pretty sure I got my first job there 2015.
Wow.
Did that for a year and then started my master's there while I still had the job as well. So straight on through.
Fantastic. That's pretty impressive. If it's any consolation, I started university before you, so don't feel like it was that far away. That's quite early.
Feel a little bit better.
That's actually quite early. And that's brilliant. That's an amazing story. How did you find your time at university first before we get onto your sort of roles?
Well, my start to uni wasn't actually that smooth. So obviously I was doing sport and exercise science, sport degree. And then 2 weeks before moving to university, I went and broke my leg. So it wasn't really what I'd planned, but absolutely loved it. Not the breaking leg part, but when I actually got to university, absolutely loved it. It was really good.
Oh, that's good. Did that hamper your sort of first year experience, or was it something you got over fairly quickly, and it became quite normal?
To be honest, I think it did. I actually found it really quite hard to kind of make friends on the course and things like that, because I mean I didn't go out for like my entire first year, which is obviously one of the big things to do in your first year. And yeah, I was very much stuck in my flat. Thank you. Very much stuck in my flat. Yeah, and it was really quite difficult. And obviously I already knew a couple of people that were in the hockey club there, so I was really excited to go join in my first year, have a great time. And obviously I couldn't do that in my first year either, so it was quite hard.
Right. Yeah, I can imagine that. It sort of raises questions around how important that social element is, both through sport and just in general, isn't it? If you can bond and build relationships with people, however that is, if it's just through your sort of dorm or your halls, or if it's through sport, it's brilliant and it's really beneficial, isn't it? So that must be quite a difficult time.
100%. You know, my first year and second year were just so different, and that was pretty much down to the friends that I'd made on my course, but the friends that I made in the hockey club when I joined in the second year. So yeah, my first year was quite hard to deal with, but my second year made up for everything.
Brilliant. That's good. Did you have any roles in the hockey club, or were you just playing for fun?
In my final year, I was the captain when we were in Team Phoenix, but I never did any committee roles. I left that to the others.
Well, it's different for different people, isn't it? There's like different motivations and different factors that, I never got involved in the committee side either, but on a playing perspective, I would give anything and do anything and be there for that aspect. So I understand that. And it's different drivers for different people, isn't it? So how did you find that in your third year then? being on Team Phoenix, how was that? Was that right at the sort of start of Team Phoenix, or
Ooh,
quite early in the interim? I don't know. I don't know
I
the
think
answer to that question.
I think so. It was before there was the big revamp of Team Phoenix. So and yeah, I loved it. So there was such a big commitment to have, but
Yeah.
the hockey team that we had at the time, we were just all so passionate about playing hockey and so passionate about performing really well. So we wanted to give ourselves the best opportunity to do that, basically. And that was getting up to go to the gym at 6 a.m. 3 times a week, go to training and work really, really hard. We all worked really hard in the gym, all put so much effort into everything. And it was just an amazing environment to be in.
Yeah, I can imagine. Was that your first taste of performance sport, for want of a different word, or had you been involved in sort of anything before, clubs or counties or sort of any age grade stuff?
Yeah, so externally, hockey I did, regional things and performance camps and things like that. So it was quite like that. But this was the first time that I'd been in a team that were all working towards the same thing. So
Yeah.
in the external things, when you go to the performance camps, you're always kind of competing against each other.
Yeah.
And you can try and make the best environment, but it can sometimes be really quite hard. Whereas this time, we were all great friends. We all just wanted to play for each other and work really hard for each other. And that was just a really good performance environment to be in.
Yeah, I can imagine. And the reason why I ask, and I'm sure we'll get onto it later on, obviously you're now working in performance environments. So I wondered if that kind of spots that flame a little bit early. But before we get into that then, so once you finished your degree, you went on and did a master's. Impressive. Always got a lot of time for people who do that. One thing I wish I did, and probably still time, and then you got straight into a role in the university as well. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it certainly kept me very, very busy. And I don't know what I was expecting when I took the role at Cove, to be honest. I think I was just expecting to turn up, do a little bit of work, go home. But obviously, you'll know, working in Sport Coventry is just such a massive family. And I can't explain how much I loved my job there. Obviously, the fact that I kept taking different jobs and refusing to leave, and that's a bit of a hint. But yeah, absolutely loved it.
And how was your first year? Because I imagine there was obviously, with there being no gap between being a student and then being a staff member, was there some challenges working with sort of peers potentially, or people you'd just been part of the club with and now you're organising fixtures for them, or how did you find that?
I don't know, I feel like reflecting, I probably should have found it harder than it was, but I found it really nice to just be able to talk to them still as friends, and it almost gave me like a little bit of respect from them, which was really nice, but also helped me to kind of relate to them potentially a little bit more than others could, which was really great. But turning up to work and then seeing your friends come into the office every day, it's not like any other job that you get, really, so it's great.
No, that is a little bit different. And I suppose, like you said, it allows you to connect with them probably a little bit easier. And there's definitely certain roles out there that I think sometimes being closer in age, particularly sport, closer in age or closer sort of if you've performed or been part of a performance setup or you've been part of a team before, and that link can be quite beneficial. So how did you find your couple of jobs? It was 3 jobs, wasn't it? So there's admin coordinator, performance coordinator. How did you find those?
Really good. So I learned a lot while I was being the administrator, but I also learned that you have to do a lot of work for not a lot of money. But unfortunately, that's life, isn't it?
That's unfortunately very much so.
Yeah, but no, really enjoyed that role. But obviously was very, very happy with the opportunity to take societies coordinator. A little bit more money, which everyone loves. But B, I'd never actually worked in societies before. I'd only ever worked in sport or only ever been around sport. I was never in a society myself or anything like that. So it was really different, really challenging, but really interesting to learn about everyone's culture and about everyone's other interests that weren't sport. So yeah, it was it was an eye opener really. I wasn't in that role for too long because I was only maternity cover.
Okay.
But then Ben very nicely left at the right time, so I went and took his role of sport participation coordinator. And again, that was something really different because I'd only really been around performance sport. So then to be around the participation side just gave me just another kind of string to my bow, or, you know, I don't even know what the saying is, but just to give me something else to kind of think about. And yeah, that was a real fulfilling role because you got people into sport that potentially hadn't thought about getting into sport before. And it also got me to China for free, which was very nice.
many perks by the sound of things. Any big learnings from those two roles? Any things that you sort of taken forward into your current positions?
I learned a lot about ethnicities and cultures while I was in societies, which helps me a lot now with, you know, a range of individuals, helps me with diversity and things like that, which was great.
Brilliant.
And the participation side just helps me understand that not everyone loves sport as much as I do. Which, you know, I really hadn't thought of before. I just thought everyone loved performance and loved going out for runs on a rainy day, things like that. But you know, they don't, and it's a nice challenge to try and get more people into physical activity and into sport too.
Oh, that's brilliant. That sounds like a really rewarding time for you, and also quite interesting, like you said, to get. I think we spoke about this in a previous podcast with someone else. Experience is massive, isn't it? So if you can just get exposure and experience to new things with new people, new learning opportunities, that's just really, really important. Don't get me wrong, getting a degree and getting a master's like you've done, you've been obviously very successful because you've complemented both, which I'm sure makes you a strong candidate for anything moving forward. And we'll get onto that in a minute. But so you're also coaching. We've touched upon that, haven't you? That you're still hockey coaching. When did that start?
Yeah. It must have started pretty much as soon as I left the club as a player. So,
had you coached before that, out of interest?
I had, but very much younger players. And I really wanted to make sure that I got my coaching qualification. So I'm a level 2 coach. And I just think coaching qualifications can help you and help your CV and help your experience, no matter whether you go into coaching or not. So it's something that I definitely wanted to do. And then luckily, you know, the role came up at Cov, and the hockey club at Coventry is something that I've always been really passionate about, and it'll always be in my heart. So yeah, bit the hands off, took that role, and again, just never left. So I'm really just clinging on to Coventry.
No, it's brilliant. It obviously means that there's a connection there for you, doesn't it? There's something more than just, it's sport or it's just a club. There's something a bit deeper than that, and obviously you find it really beneficial and you gain something from it yourself. So that's fantastic to hear. How's your coaching journey been then? Have you coached at many other places now, or have you just been with Cov?
Just with Cov, you know, they keep you quite busy. With a full-time job as well, you know, going over to coach on Monday nights, and then when books was a thing before COVID, obviously that took your entire Wednesday as well. So yeah, I think I'd struggle to coach anyone else, but yeah, I love it really, and it's always a really rewarding thing. I mean, don't look at kind of success rates since I've been coached, because I think you'd question my ability as a coach.
Well, that only tells part of the picture, doesn't it? Only tells part of the picture. That's what we must say. There's more to life than just the sort of result or just the sport, isn't there? There's the experience, and there's like you said, meeting people and all of that. So no, it's just interesting to find out how that's been transitioning from player to coach, and also having sort of multiple roles. You've almost got kind of different hats, haven't you? And you've got these different kind of experiences, and I'm sure that helps you connect with your players when you're working with them now, and a bit of empathy on kind of some of the challenges they're facing, I imagine.
Yeah, definitely. And it's really nice to be able to say that I have been in their position. And, you know, I know a lot of people say that, but I literally have, you know, in the same club, on the same pitch, playing against the same teams, which is really nice, because I like to talk to the players about non-hockey related stuff as well. So, you know, it helps training to be a sports psych, but being their friend as well and being able to help them through their university like course and just help them in all aspects, because I just, the girls that are in the club and the girls that I can help, I think, we're all just, we're friends, not just, you know, coach and player. And I think that's a really important thing to have.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think you summed it up brilliantly there. It's about connecting with them, isn't it? It's about connecting with them more than just, I want an outcome out of you on a Wednesday. Please go and score me a few goals. It's got to be more than that, hasn't it? It's got to be deeper than that. It would be nice, but that's probably the hardest bit. Like you said, if you can just connect with them and show a bit of empathy with some of the challenges they're facing, I think that's brilliant. Well, that's a fantastic experience you've obviously got through your coaching, and then sports psychology. We'll get onto that now, and kind of your current role and your future roles potentially. How did sports psychology come about? What was the sort of driving factor for that? As a what was your degree? Sorry, going back to that.
My undergrad was sport and exercise science. Okay,
and then did you do a master's in sports psychology? That's what you said, didn't you? So how was there a period of time during your undergrad where you went, actually that's the direction I want to go in? Did it link to your coaching? Did it link to something else? What was the driving force behind that? Be interested to find out.
So, as quite a lot of people actually do, I went to uni not really knowing what I wanted to do, which is why I chose sport and exercise science, because I knew I loved sport science, but didn't really know which field that I wanted to go in. It also helped that sports psychology was naturally something I found myself being quite good at while I was doing my undergrad, but I actually found it really, really difficult to get back from my injury. Even though like I was physically perfectly fine, I just found it really, really difficult, and that's what basically got me thinking a little bit more about sports psychology. So I looked into the kind of training route while I was in, I think it was my third year. I'd finally made the decision on what I wanted to do, but because I did sport and exercise science as a undergrad, I needed a certain accreditation to do a sports psychology master's. So I needed to do like a conversion master's. So I did psychology master's at Cov, and then went to Loughborough to do a sport and exercise psychology master's. And then, so past that, and then I'm on the final training route now with Bases. I'm about halfway through that, so in a year's time, hopefully I will be a fully qualified sport and exercise psychologist.
That's amazing. That's a pretty interesting story, and something I'd be interested to find out, but probably not something we could unpick now. Is there a correlation between people who have got into it the way you have through personal injuries or personal troubles, for want of a different word, and then kind of worked out how to transition out of that, and that's gave them the inspiration to potentially go and do exactly what you did? So that's amazing. What's your current position then at the moment? You're working at Loughborough, aren't you?
Yeah, so I work at Loughborough Uni with their performance sports. So I'm currently based within their hockey team and their swimmers. And then I'm also based at Aston Villa Academy as well, which is just a whole new world. Never knew how academy football worked, but an eye-opener.
Is there much you can divulge on that, or is it a little bit of I know football, and particularly football academies, are quite a closed conversation sometimes, but is there much you can divulge on that or your experiences?
Yeah, I probably can't go into too much detail, but it's just not what I ever imagined. I don't know. I don't even know what I imagined. I guess I assumed football would be a really harsh environment, but I've absolutely loved it. Like, so far, love the environment, love the club I'm at, and I think it's great. It's so amazing that they have such an elite kind of setup around such young people. So I'm working from like age 8 to age 16 at the moment, and to have a performance environment around 8-year-olds is yeah, it's
That
not
is
ever
frightening.
what I imagined.
No, that's frightening, and that's younger than I would have presumed. And I would probably classify myself as a little bit in the know on kind of academies and stuff like that. But that's frightening how young that is. But then it's kind of, is there a need? Is there a, if they're in that performance environment, do they need that bit of support? They probably do, don't they, from a young age, because it's a troublesome world, performance sport, in any sport, isn't
Yeah,
it? It's not a smooth
yeah,
journey for anyone. So
absolutely. And you know, the things that they're kind of provided with, and the support they're provided with, is absolutely fantastic. You
yeah,
know, like those 8 to 16-year-olds are in pretty much the best possible environment they could be in, to become performance athletes in the future.
that's brilliant. That is yeah, fascinating to hear from someone on the inside of that. And your role at Loughborough, how are you finding that? Because I mean, it's a fantastic place to work, isn't it? Beautiful surroundings, amazing facilities,
Yeah.
access to fantastic sportsmen and women. Yeah, how's your experience been at that?
I mean, it's pretty great, basically because of everything that you just mentioned. I mean, going to Cov really makes you appreciate the things that you do have access to. And then you go to a place like Loughborough and they've just got everything you could possibly imagine, which is amazing. But yeah, I mean, it's just so serious there.
Yeah.
They're just so committed to making sport great, and every athlete has such amazing facilities, such amazing support, and it's really nice to be a part of something like that. And all the athletes are really grateful for the support that they give us.
That's good.
Which is really good.
That's good, because that's often not the case, isn't it?
Yeah.
Particularly when you get with the elite performers, sometimes they can be a little bit kind of insular or isolated and just kind of want to get on with it themselves and not really got time for conversations. It's quite selfish at that top echelon, isn't it?
Yeah.
Particularly, like you said, if you're working with British swimmers and stuff like that. But that's fantastic to hear you've had good experience with them. And then the hockey setup, are you doing any coaching there, or is it just a bit of the sports psych?
Yeah, just sports psychology. They have, I don't even know how many teams they have. Many teams. And yeah, I'm pretty sure they have like full-time, part-time coaches coming out their ears, I think. So just sports psychology for me there. Oh, don't want to get run over.
No, careful. All right, fantastic. Well, I mean, a really interesting story and really interesting journey that you've been on, and hopefully something that is quite good timing for students now that are in their 3rd year or 4th year and kind of moving on to kind of life after university, which we've spoken a few times about before on this this podcast or this conversation or whatever we want to call it. So that's really nice to hear. Normally, I invite you to ask me or us questions, us being Sport Coventry, and I try and answer them. So if you'd like to have a think of that. If not, I've always got a few questions to chuck your way. Any thoughts?
I guess obviously in the current climate as well, the biggest thing is, how do you think like lockdown will have affected athletes by the time they get back, or are there any changes that Sport Coventry are making to kind of ease athletes back in, or changes you've made just because of positive things you've seen come out of lockdown?
Good question. I think it's a really challenging one, because I was having a similar conversation with someone the other day from a performance perspective, and I'm just concerned at how do you get back to the level you were, and in that scenario it was based around contact as well, so it was a contact sport, and I thought, how do we get back from mentally and physically from inactivity for months or just running or just home workouts to full contact environments, or even just back to playing sport with large numbers? That's a concern for people, isn't it? Back on a pitch with 30 other people, or whatever the number might be. So there's some real concerns around it. But as always, as we're preaching to the converted, you and me, we know the benefits of it as well, that it's going to open up a lot of opportunities for people to burn off a bit of energy, get their sort of mental balance or their balance in their lifestyle and all of that kind of stuff. I don't know. I think our learnings have been probably that it's been remarkable how well some of the clubs have done online, and also how easy it is to connect with people online as well. There's definitely some positives of that, but there's also some negatives of that, as I'm sure you'll know. But we've been able to have some really good conversations, and some clubs have been fantastic in what they've been able to do online. So hopefully that continues and only supplements kind of the actual return as well, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
It would be a shame to see it go from one to the other. I think you've got to almost use the skills you've just worked on for 6-9 months of having a good online presence, keep that, but then also work on your face-to-face stuff and making sure your club grows. Not quite sure if I answered your question there, but yeah, it's going to be a challenging time.
What question I asked you.
No, it's going to be a challenging time, but hopefully, yeah, between the clubs, the coaches, the staff at Sport Coventry and the KUSU as a group, hopefully we can get sort of sport back off the ground and in a safe and responsible way where people feel happy. That's the main thing, isn't it? So
yeah, definitely.
But no, good question. I got a question for you, which I think I've asked someone before, but I'll be very interested to see, because I think it's something we probably didn't touch on. 5 years' time,
oh God,
where does sport fit into your life? There's many ways you can go with that one, because you've got your coaching, you've got your playing. I don't know if you're still doing that. We didn't talk about that, but you've also then got your sports psych. Where does it fit into your life, out of interest?
Well, it's a difficult one because I still obviously love playing. But I know now, because I still have issues with the injury that I had years and years and years ago, that my playing career probably is coming to some kind of end, sadly. But I'm so passionate about performance sport and being a sports psychologist that, yeah, I just see myself immersing myself in that environment. And as you know, in performance sport, it pretty much takes up your entire life. So I can't imagine I'd have too much time to play myself at that point. But yeah, 100% sports psychology, hopefully in the big leagues, doing something
That's good.
for some big athlete or big team somewhere.
That's nice to hear, because most of the time that answer is it's just going to be social, or it's going to be I will be participating. But it's nice to hear that it's also a career aspiration for yourself moving forward. And I'm sure, as we said, or as I touched on earlier on, given your qualifications and all the experiences and sort of opportunities you've created for yourself, no doubt that will be possible. So no, fantastic conversation, and one I think we could probably almost have a part 2 on. I reckon there's loads there's loads we didn't delve into. But any final thoughts from you before we close it up?
No, but I was actually just thinking that this walking meeting thing could really be an incentive. You know, I've been sat behind my desk at home for months now. We're only just starting to get out now, sports slowly being allowed back. But I honestly really could have done with a few more of these meetings to keep me active throughout the day, because it's a really hard balance, isn't it? So it could be a really useful thing for people that are still working from home. No,
that's good to hear, and I think that's my marketing pitch done for the next episode. So
100%.
Thank you for that, Emma. Thank you. It's very kind. All right, brilliant. We'll wrap it up, and thank you so much for your time. And as I said, really insightful conversation and a little bit different, and hopefully the listeners got something out of that. So thanks again.
No problem. See you later.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.